Will people who knowingly continue to break even one of God's commandments be saved? What does the Bible say? First of all, the penalty for sin is what? Death. The Bible says He'll destroy sinners. James 2:10, whoever therefore shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Now, again, I want to reiterate, God does not save us because we obey the commandments. We obey the commandments after He saves us. Let me illustrate with a Bible story. Did God first send Moses to the children of Israel while they were slaves and say, here's my law, keep my law, and I'll get you out of Egypt? Is that what He did? Or was the first step for them to sacrifice a lamb? First they sacrificed the lamb, then they began their journey out. They crossed the Red Sea. They're now free. They're no longer slaves. He gives them bread from heaven. He gives them water from a rock. He gives them victory over their enemies. After He's done all this to show He loves them, He brings them to Mount Sinai. And what's the first commandment? What's the first commandment? No other God? Wrong. If you look in Exodus 20, verse 1, here's the first commandment. I am the Lord your God that brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt not have other gods before me. That was on the table of stone. First thing it said was, I am the God that saved you. In other words, I've shown you how I feel about you. I've shown you that I love you. I've shown you I have your best interest in mind. Now, if you love me, here's my law. After they were saved. They were not saved by keeping the law. They kept the law after they were saved. Now, don't miss this point. They were not saved from Egypt because they kept the 10 Commandments. But the wilderness is a halfway point, isn't it? They weren't supposed to be saved from Egypt to the wilderness. They're trying to get from Egypt to the promised land. He brought them to the wilderness to teach them to obey. Those who, after having heard the law of God, refused to obey, did they make it to the promised land? Or did their bodies drop in the wilderness? You are not saved by keeping the law, but as sure as you're alive, you're not going to heaven deliberately breaking it. Because you could not be trusted there. If Satan was cast out for sinning, we're not going in that way. Jesus came to save us from our sin. I believe He's powerful enough to do it, don't you? Question number 8. Can anyone be saved by keeping the law?